This piece is called Collapse, and it was executed in oils, which is a fairly new thing for me. As you can see, it's one of my trademark abstract compositions, and although you see or might see two figures, for me the whole subject matter is it's the same person who has had some sort of collapse mentally and is sort of looking on his own lower half, and you can see abstraction of furniture, tables, maybe a stool, everything as part of the composition, and it's hard to tell which is which and what is exactly collapsing. Is it the furniture? Is it the person? Is it everything? Or is it a mental thing? This piece I call the Daybed episode, and it was executed in oils, and it's one of my trademark abstract compositions. And in this piece you can see the figure is nearly naturally painted, although it still manages to have some abstractions and sort of dissolves into the nothingness, you can say. The figure is resting and sort of held by what could be a Daybed. It's sort of an abstraction of a support, but the support is insecure. The legs are bent and almost falling off. As a composition, it holds practically all my key elements that I usually use. The very straight lines, the sharp lines, and the very organic and sort of dissolving elements. Continue. What you see here is a series of the faces I like to do. You might call them portraits. And they all sort of have my trademarks with the abstractions and the displacements. Mainly in the face, I focus very much on the face and not so much on the body in these. I like to call them psychological portraits rather than being photographic, objective and realistic. They much more deal with what is going on beneath the surface in your mind or whatever. I try to catch maybe more of an feeling of turmoil and something else going on than just a face, what goes on beneath the face. This piece I call Night Music, and it was executed mainly in oils. And as you can see, it's one of my trademark faces. And this piece I see very much as a sort of Vanitas image. And it's very much about the feeling of isolation you have when you might sit at home listening to your music, favorite music at night, and thinking about your mortality, that sort of existential thoughts. This piece I call Nightstand, and it was executed in acrylics. It's an abstract composition with a heavily fragmented body. Actually, it's so fragmented and cropped, it's hard to decipher even the gender of the person or persons. The very strict lines that you know from the work and the very abstract areas. And here the framework suggests a bed and sort of constrains the composition, which in itself suggests something else is going on here than just lying flat out in a bed, which I would like to leave up for interpretation. This piece is called Seed, and it was executed in acrylics. And it's one of my abstract compositions where you get both the very, very sharp lines and the very organic areas of the painting all together in a unity. The piece is called Seat, which might imply rest, but as you can see, the figure might be seated and resting, but there's a certain aspect of unease going on in the composition, which I would like to leave up for interpretation for the individual viewer. This piece is oils on paper. Actually, there's also spray paint involved. And it's a close-up study of a face, and apart from being a study of a face and its structure, it's also a study in color, because as you might have noticed, the skin color is not quite natural here. This piece is about to be framed, and I'm looking very much forward to seeing it being presented in its frame. This is a piece with oil paint and spray paint on paper, and as you can see, it's a close-up study of a skull. You might call it a Vanitas picture, and apart from experimenting with the colors and the structure of the skull, you also see some of my trademark abstractions in it. This piece is about to be framed, and I am looking very much forward to seeing it framed and presented in the gallery.